Good afternoon, everyone. It's Anita Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. And no, I'm not in a new exotic location, but it's a great backdrop behind me, isn't it? So I'm still speaking to you from Edmonton, and yeah, this is a great backdrop on this wall behind me. And of course, I love such nature and beauty to center my own mind. And I hope that today's video will help you reflect and contemplate a little bit about things that go through your mind. And you'll notice that the subject of this video this time is about differences, and that's the difference. So that's what I decided to call it. That's the difference. So I wanted to talk about something I talk about regularly, and I suspect many people are these days, or maybe for many years, and it's about the ego. And my first quotation is by the Rig Veda, or in the Rig Veda, and it says, ego is the biggest enemy of humans. Ego is the biggest enemy of humans. And, we could usually, maybe, perhaps many of us could say that, yeah, ego really gets in the way of things, because when an ego is involved, then, you can't really get through to someone. And it doesn't matter what aspect we're talking about. So if someone is egotistical about the work that they do, though it might be fabulous work, if you try to say, well, you could do this to make it better, they wouldn't want to hear it. And if someone's got the opposite ego, if I don't feel good enough, so remember, ego is either feeling better than or lesser than another. So if a person is already feeling lesser than, and you let them know that, oh, this might be better. And say, oh, I always do it wrong. Or you're always correcting me. Either way is an egoic response too. And one thing that we can recognize in our daily interactions about whether our own ego gets in the way is how offended we get if someone does not agree with us. And I think this way and you think that way, and it's like, no, but I'm right, and you should never say that, or that sort of idea, which brings me back into personal reflection and how important this is, because a lot of people don't even take the moment to understand that, why is my mind responding this way? What is it about this that makes this mind respond this way? And this mind has been trained, your mind, my mind, has been trained by so many years of our own personal life experiences, our own upbringing, our own culture, our own society, our own world in our mind. Because it doesn't matter where we are all affecting one another. Yet the ego will find an excuse for not such great responses, and it will say, well, it's because I live here, it's because I was born here, it's because I'm this culture, I'm this religion, I'm this sex, I'm this age, I'm this wisdom, whichever, or I have this much knowledge. Anything. It's the number of years I've studied, it's the profession that I have, it's the title that I have, it's whatever. The ego finds a reason to justify not good response. And so when we look at self-reflection and self-development and self-healing, one of these ideas that comes up very regularly, and I certainly encourage it, is one quotation that I found from the Chandogya Upanishad, and it says, those who know their true selves are never swayed by external forces. They remain rooted in their inner peace, no matter what may come their way. And this may come their way in terms of life experience, or it may come their way in terms of an interaction with a colleague, with a friend, with a coworker, with a family member, and anyone. And no matter what comes their way, they're centered and rooted because they feel that, no, you know what, I feel comfortable in this spot, but not from an egoic energy, not of, I'm right, which, how many couples go into this? And how many people go into this? So whether it's bosses towards employees, or sometimes employees to bosses, and sometimes one family member to another, it happens all over, friends to each other. And the reason that this comes up is because the ego gets in the way. So the ego needs to show its rightness. The ego wants to feel better than or lesser than another. And more often than not, it's better than another. So this idea of the reason this comes up is because of comparison. So if you say this and it's not the same as what I'm saying, I'm going to compare myself to you. Naturally, the mind will do that. Excuse me. I should take a sip of water. Thank you, and sorry. If I am comparing, so as soon as I recognize that my mind is comparing, I compare the validity of my information compared to the validity of the information I'm receiving, and I don't agree with it. And then I have to prove myself, or do I? Do I have to prove myself? Does it make a difference? Can I be peaceful with this is what I feel is correct? And oh, maybe you know something because that's actually very giving. Or maybe I don't know something and that can be giving. Again, not from the poor me, I wish I was smarter because you know so much, or from a, well, you just don't know. And that's either of those extremes are ego places. And this understanding of ourselves takes a moment of stopping and reflecting and thinking before we speak, because words are spoken in a moment, but they actually do last a lifetime, or quite a long time at least. They can last a lifetime. And that's one thing that we would carry with us, that if we become mindfully aware that we have hurt someone with something that we've said, we might start thinking that, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I should have said something different. Or we might just spend a lifetime saying they should have said something different. And you see how that's an ego space, because it doesn't bring peace to ourselves or to another. So then there's this next quotation, and it's by the Bhagavad Gita, or in the Bhagavad Gita, and it says, "The wise man knows that his true self, this is higher S, capital S, is the same as all other beings, and that he should treat them with compassion." This is what I find very interesting about Vedic studies compared to, and I'm comparing here, many other schools of spiritual training, learning, because a lot of schools in duality, for example, many religions might be in this space. So whether we think of Christianity, we think of Judaism, we think of Islam, many times it's just, well, this is right. It just is. That's in the books. And that's what would be said by, again, whether Muslims or Jewish or Christians, Catholics, and even amongst Buddhism and Hinduism, which are Vedic influenced, there's also an ego that can develop unless there's a mindful attention to it. Now, what I love about these teachings, whether it's, by the way, any of these religions, it's all the same, that the true teaching was often about, here's the information, utilize your mind for how it is understood for you and work from that space. It's never been, in my opinion, and from whatever I've read, this mind has read, this mind has understood that it's all very much the same. And, you know, even whether we look at times of Aristotle and Socrates, where it was a teacher speaking to a group of students, and it wasn't the, no, you have to think of it this way. It was the openness of, see how that feels for your mind. See how you reflect on this. See what this means to you. It was never this means this, black and white. But as you know, that as we grew our egos, our society, our world, we started becoming very particular about no, this is right and this is not right. And that's a very intellectual space. And that intellectual space is something that I'll talk about in my next video for you. But for now, if you can understand that it's very, very easy for us to recognize when we go into an egoic space, and it's not for us to notice it in others, we can if we'd like. It's that's kind of not a useful space for us to be in, because in terms of becoming better, we only need to focus on, am I doing things that lift others? Am I looking at things with compassionate eyes? Am I looking at things with loving eyes? Am I able to look at my own mind to see what comes out of my mouth? My thoughts, my words, my behavior is all a reflection of how much I think of myself. No, it really is. And how much I think of myself is whether I think of myself in the human form as small s, and I'm thinking a lot of myself if I think I'm always right, and whether I'm thinking from the capital S, the self, the how does divine energy think, speak, behave. If I choose to understand that and then emulate the energy that I learned from that, that is the space that I believe true healing happens, both for ourselves and for the world around us. And today, I would encourage us to work from that space. And that's the difference between working from the ego and divine space. The difference is we don't look for differences. We look for what's the similar things. It's like, wow, you know what? This person thinks in their unique way, just like I think in my unique way, is seeing a similarity as opposed to you're right and I'm wrong, or I'm wrong. No, I'm right and you're wrong. Either way, or that person is wrong, even pointing a finger at another person and having that same thought, I can say that behavior doesn't seem so right, or it doesn't seem kind. It's not kind. I can easily say this is not kind, this is kind. But I need to see it in myself first, because if I don't understand it in myself, I will go through judgment of myself and others regularly and not really get the gist of divine energy. Today, I hope you get the gist of divine energy and recognize to stop looking at differences and start looking at similarities, and let's bring unity back. I wish you a fabulous day ahead, and I hope you remember transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great day, everyone.